Welcome to The Outlet, an OTG production.
What's up, NBA fans? Welcome to another edition of The Outlet. With me, as always, Parth.
What's up, Nick?
How you doing, Parth? Today we got another special guest, John. He's a writer for OTGBasketball.com as well as an editor and diehard Knicks fans. What's up, John?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So today we introduce the Knicks at number 24. Before we talk about that, here's one clip from last season.
Knicks lead has been cut to 2. Here's Thomas driving on Jefferson. Fouled up. Whoa.
Describes the Knicks in a nutshell. You don't really know what he's trying to do, don't know what's going on. Perfect clip for the Knicks.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. I think the best part about it is that he ends up making the shot. If you watch the full, there's another video on YouTube, a full video of it, and he drives the lane and hits some crazy looking floater that rims in. So yeah, it's funny. I saw that on Shaq yesterday. So it's so funny.
I don't know how the refs let him get away with that. They're easy calls too.
Well, if you watch the ref, he makes a gesture like it's like a tip ball.
Yeah.
First. And so, but then the rest of it, it's like, how do you? I mean, I don't know. So I think he felt like everything was kind of nullified because it was a tip ball. So I don't know. But that was.
It's like he steps out of bounds, and then there's that up and down traveling sort of dynamic, and then he double dribbles. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it describes the Knicks pretty well. So the Knicks come in at number 24. Do you guys feel this is a fair ranking?
Yeah, I think it is. Kind of like what we said about the Magic, where I think the Knicks can maybe sneak in that 8 seed. But I think 24 is fair because there's some other – the East is improved, and there's some teams that are ahead of them that I think are better. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, they could probably sneak up a little bit. I think a lot depends on Carmelo's health and maybe how some of these young guys fit in their first year. So there is potential, but it's still a little worrisome.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think 24 is a fair ranking for now. It just remains to be seen how all these new players will fit into the triangle, if that's what Phil and Derek Fisher do want to run moving forward. So it'll be interesting to see if they can improve on the triangle, because I think they do have a decent enough roster to make a playoff push, but the triangle is always tricky.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Nick.
We'll actually get to see Derek Fisher coach this year because he'll have actual NBA players, so it'll be interesting too.
Yeah, and I think the way you can tell that this roster this year is incredibly better than last year is two of the guys that they brought back, Lou Munson and Lance Thomas, are probably not going to play at all. Those are guys who started a lot of games last year. So I think that gives you an idea of they're much improved, but I think they still have a ways to go.
Exactly. Two guys played a lot of minutes last year. This year they'll be end of the bench.
So yeah, exactly.
They had a decent roster to start last season with was Bargs? Did Bargs stay the entire year?
Bargnani?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, he was there the entire year, but I know J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert left midway through. But even with them at the beginning, they were terrible.
Yeah. Well, when you try and run the triangle, I mean, I think they were too focused on running the triangle, and it became almost rigid, and it wasn't free flowing. And when you have those, they just didn't have the guys to make it work. So if you watch them in summer league, I watched all their games. They did triangle, but they also did a lot of pick and roll, and I think they're going to kind of copy a little bit of what the Warriors did, where they have some triangle attributes, but it's going to be more of a little bit of everything. They might have some pick and roll. They might do some other stuff too.
That's probably the best way to go. You want to adjust to the game. So let's talk about some key returner and offseason moves. We got Carmelo coming off the knee injury. Jose Calderon's coming back. Langston Galloway, a nice surprise from last season. Who do you guys think is going to have a big year?
I mean, Melo this is the big year for Melo. I mean, the Knicks don't have a chance of making the championship run or anything like that. But, I mean, if Melo can kind of just get back to the form he was at 2013-14 and the year before that when the Knicks had the 50-win team, I think that'll be big for Melo, and it'll be big for Knicks fans. It's important for them to see that their star is back into his prime form.
Yeah, I'm just a little nervous about him with that knee injury. I know it's similar to the one that Dwayne Wade and Granger have, so it's almost guaranteed Melo might have to take a few games off just to rest that knee a little bit.
Yeah, as far as key returners, I mean, they don't have many as far as people coming back from last year, but you got to go with Carmelo. I don't think Jose Calderon will get – well, I don't know. He might get some time. I feel like they want to throw Jerian Grant in there just because he could be the future at point guard. I'm a big fan of Jaren Grant. But yeah, Langston Galloway, I don't know if he'll. Do you guys think he'll get much run this season? I know he signed a multi-year extension after his
I
performance
think he'll
last year.
definitely have an opportunity in the beginning of the year to see some minutes because he probably was their best player at some points last season when everyone was injured.
Because I know Aaron Aflalo is probably penciled in as the starting 2.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things about that. One, I think Calderon to start the year, what I could see that could logically happen with the Knicks is I think Calderon could probably start, and then they'll probably give Grant maybe like 20 minutes a game, depending on how he goes along in training camp. And then as the season goes on, if Grant seems to outperform Calderon, he'll probably end up starting. But Galloway, I don't see getting that much burn. He's an undersized 2 guard who's still trying to transition to being a point guard. And he didn't really show me much in summer league that was like, oh, he really improved from this past year. So I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of burn. Maybe like 12 minutes a game would be reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think they'll give him a chance to get minutes, and like you said, if he doesn't come up and play well, he'll probably stay around 12. But I think he has potential for more, possibly. It's tough to say when we see the rotation. How do you think? Well, let's talk about some of the offseason moves. They added Robin Lopez, Aaron Aflalo, Derek Williams, Kyle O'Quinn, Sasha Vujacic, and the 2 number 1 picks. What's your favorite move?
I love all the moves. I think my favorite move. I love the draft picks, but I think my favorite move is. I love Kyle O'Quinn. I love that they got him for basically nothing. He's a good backup big who gives you a physical presence. He's a high character guy from what guys around the league have said about him. So I love that pickup. But Robin Lopez was a good fallback to DeAndre Jordan and Greg Monroe too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy Robin Lopez and Brooke are in the same city. That's pretty interesting alone. But yeah, I think Kyle O'Quinn's a nice player to have. Professional. He'll come in. He's a good influence in the locker room, and he plays hard. So can't go wrong with that.
As for me, I like Kristaps Porzingis, of course. Just because dude already has a song after him. We should put that in the description for the viewers, but you have to check out the song. It's amazing. I didn't understand a word of it, but it's still really good. So you got to go with him. As far as other additions for them, I like Kyle O'Quinn too. I don't know what Sasha Vujacic will be able to give them. He did play under Phil for the championship Lakers teams when they had that back-to-back.
Yeah, he can shoot.
Yeah, he definitely can shoot. I like Derek Williams as an athlete. I don't know. I feel like he should be a better defender than he is. Like, he should be known for his defense, but right now he's just known for being the pick after Kyrie Irving, who didn't really pan out.
Yeah, I think Vujacic was added to the roster primarily because he's a good three-point shooter, and they don't really have a whole lot of three-point shooters. But also he played with Fisher and with the Lakers, and I think he has good experience of the triangle. So I think that was more of a reason is why they got him, because there's a ton of shooters that could have gotten over Vujacic, but I think that was the main reason. But with Derek Williams, I like the signing. I think he's still got potential. It stinks because he's got that shadow kind of casted over him because he was the number 2 pick, and I feel like he just had so much pressure that I think, maybe Phil's going to get him into meditation and have him and help him, I guess, find his game again, because I think once he gets on the right track and finds his role, I think he's still got potential to be a good NBA player.
This could be a big year for him. I mean, change of scenery always helps a little bit, so maybe New York and Phil Jackson and Derek Fisher can get him to be a little bit more consistent. I mean, he showed a lot of potential. He's got an outside shot sometimes, it's falling, and then he's athletic, and like Parth said, he probably should be a better defender, so I think this could be a big year for him, depending. It could go either way. A big year, he could work out, or he'll just be another same inconsistent year where he's.
I feel like the Sasha Vujacic signing is hilarious. I get the fact that like he's played in the triangle, he understands that he could probably help some of the other guys, but the fact that Phil Jackson said he doesn't really believe in threes, and then Frank Isola on Twitter just kills him constantly about it, especially when the last 4 teams the final 4 teams in the playoffs all shot a bunch of threes, and so I think New York has to move towards that. Hey, we really need to utilize the 3-ball, but the way Phil Jackson feels about it, it's kind of iffy. So I just find it funny. I think Frank Isola on Twitter this year will be even more entertaining than he was last year.
Yeah, I think it's funny. It seems like Phil Jackson's being kind of like an old man on a stoop who like won't change his mind. Like it's like I feel like he knows that the game is changing a little bit, but he doesn't want to go towards that.
Yeah, he
But
doesn't want to change with it.
yeah, but I think a big signing I think is Aaron Aflalo, because I mean in the 2013-14 season with the Magic he averaged like I think just under 19 a game and was a borderline all-star. So he's only a year removed from being I mean a pretty good player. I think he could have a good impact. I think that's an underrated signing for 2 years and the second year as a player option.
Aflalo didn't show me much in Portland, though. That's the only thing that worries me about him. I mean, especially when Wes Matthews got injured, they needed him to step up, and he really didn't do much of anything.
Yeah, he had some injuries of his own though. I think he hurt like his wrist or something.
Yeah, I believe he had a shoulder injury, but on kind of piggybacking off what you said, Nick, he had the opportunity to really show out on a really good team and failed to do so. Like, I know, John, you mentioned that he was great with Orlando, but Orlando sucked.
Right.
And so it'd be interesting to see if he can be a good player on a good team instead of just a good player on a bad team.
Exactly. Is there any moves that you didn't like, departures, guys you wish they kept around?
I mean, I guess the one guy that, I'm fine with, I think everybody going except I kind of wish they kept Cole Aldrich. I mean, the games that I watched, he was a good backup center. I know they tried to keep him, but I think part of it was that he wanted to play with a really good team, but then he also wanted, I think the Clippers could offer him more money. So I'm going to miss Cole. He's underrated big man, a good backup big. His per 36 numbers are pretty ridiculous. I think he has like 12 rebounds per 36 or something like that, or 11 rebounds. And then Tim Hardaway Jr., it's unfortunate he's got to leave. I think he digressed due to the triangle in his second year, but I think getting Jerry and Grant in return kind of balances it out and makes it okay.
Yeah, definitely because they got Jerry and Grant. I think that works out fine. Like you said, Hardaway kind of didn't show a lot last season, and he had opportunities to, especially when everyone was out and he had a chance to step up and be a scorer, but he really didn't do that much. So I think they got pretty good value for him.
Well, I personally will miss Alexei Shved.
Yeah,
just because he's had some of the best moments in the NBA, that like best entertaining moments, from Ricky Rubio telling him to change his face when he was upset about something in Minnesota, to last year throwing that hook alley-oop pass, whatever it was, into like the third row of the stands. So I'll miss him for sure. Bargnani, who I think I'll miss him as well, just because he had that one really, really funny dunk attempt where he tried to jump over someone and it didn't work out for him. And then Jason Smith, who did he go to Orlando?
Yeah,
he was like
he's
a
gonna be their backup
Kylo
center,
Quinn,
probably.
Jason Smith basically swap.
Yeah.
But he has some incredible dance moves. If you haven't seen it, look that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that most of the guys they had to let go, they didn't have good seasons. They got paid more elsewhere, and they replaced them with guys who are pretty much better. So, I mean, they're probably disappointed they didn't land any big guys, but a lot of realist Knicks fans probably assume that they wouldn't land a big target.
Yeah, like myself. I mean, the best target we had, I guess, a realistic shot at getting was Greg Monroe, but he made the smart move and went to Milwaukee.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
That he went to Milwaukee?
Yeah, I thought I mean, a lot of reports came on early on before free agency started that he was almost like a lock to go to the Knicks, and then like boom, he just goes to Milwaukee like that.
Yeah, that's why you can't trust the New York media. But Nick, I wanted to ask you how excited are you to have Shane Larkin and Bargnani on the Nets?
I mean, I'm not too bad. I'm not bad about Shane Larkin. Bargnani, I honestly don't care. Like, he got a minimum contract. Hopefully, he either can make a few threes or just not play at all.
Yeah, I mean, he still scores. Like I think he averaged like 14 a game last year. So his defense is always the biggest issue.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then he just, I mean, maybe Hollins can toughen him up. That's like my biggest hope, but that'll be tough to say. Larkin, I actually think I think he said he struggled a lot with the triangle, so maybe if he gets in a different kind of offense, it might help him out a little bit. He showed a little bit potential when he was in Dallas, but in New York, he really didn't do much anything. He's just really fast.
Anything you want to add, Parth?
I think the triangle for this team is going to be tough to learn, because I know when you think of the triangle and you think of Phil Jackson, you think of championships, but those championship teams had plenty of time to learn the triangle and also had Hall of Fame caliber players. So like, this team is not, regardless of the triangle or not, like, I don't think 8th seed in the East is probably like
They're
what
capped.
they're going to be, or just missing the playoffs. I think they're going to be that sort of team. So when you have Phil Jackson and you're running the triangle, you always have that expectation of, we need to get a championship because we have this and that, but I mean that's unrealistic. But most Knicks fans think it's gonna happen, and then you have to hear about that on Twitter and wherever else.
I live in New York, so I know all about that. But let's move on. So X Factor. So that's pretty much your X Factor part, the triangle.
It's how quickly all these new guys can pick up on the triangle. I think it'll be interesting to see if they stick with it, if they can't pick up on it, if the players can't pick up on it. But knowing Phil and John mentioned his old guy in the room sort of attitude of not changing, his stubbornness, I think they'll stick with it. But it'll be interesting to see how these new players pick up on that and where they can go from there.
Gotcha. X Factor for you, John?
There's a lot. I mean, there's a ton of X factors. I mean, if you look at their stats from last year, they were pretty dreadful across the board, except for their free throw shooting. They shot pretty well from the free throw line. So I guess if no one's guarding them, they're good. But then again, they only have 5 guys returning, so it's tough to look at last year. But I think the biggest X factor. I mean, I said that Melo is their key returner. I think he's their biggest X factor. I think how much he embraces the triangle, and how much he embraces that role of being more of a selfless player as opposed to taking the shot first. Because if you watch him with Team USA, I mean, obviously it's hard to compare the Knicks to Team USA, but his demeanor is completely different on the court. He's looking almost like to pass first and only take shots when he's open. He doesn't force anything. So I think if there's a way where he can embrace the triangle and try to get his teammates involved and improve their games and then let the scoring come second, I think that could go – I mean, that could do him wonders, I think, and it could kind of help propel the Knicks to a playoff push.
I think that's a big improvement that he could make this season that would really help the Knicks. But my X Factor, I think, is going to be Melo's health. I just want to see how he comes back from that knee injury, if he has to take games off, if he has to miss games. That'll be interesting for me to keep an eye on. Let's get into a best-case scenario for the Knicks this season.
Best case, you guys touched on it earlier, I think, is making the playoffs in the 8th seed. I mean, the 7th seed, I think that probably involves them beating out Indiana. So I don't think that's going to happen. But 8th seed, I guess, is possible. Not sure if it's likely. It's just, I think it depends on so many things. It's kind of like the Yankees this year with baseball. It's like they have, like, their ceiling is decent, but it depends on so many things going right. And so that's what I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, pretty much I agree with you on that. They need a lot of things to go right, and I would say their cap is probably the 8th seed because they want to get that playoff experience for this team, make the fans happy. They had to deal with a bad season last year, so.
My best case would definitely be they pick up on the triangle and, like you guys said, make a run for that 8th seed because they don't have their first-round pick in 2016, which is partly why they traded up to get Jerian Grant by moving Tim Hardaway Jr. last draft. Because they don't have one in 2016. So they'll lose their first-round pick to Denver, Toronto, and they have like some swap thing there. So they don't have that, and I don't think they have a second-round pick either.
You can buy those though, so that's not too bad.
So I mean, building through the draft by tanking this year is not going to be an option. So yeah, 8th seed is my ceiling for this team.
Yeah, I forget if it's Toronto or it's some like complicated thing where like Toronto or Denver can like swap or something. So.
Yeah, Denver can swap. They'll get the more favorable pick, and then Toronto will get the other pick.
Yeah, so you don't want Toronto to improve their roster even more because they're in the Eastern Conference. So I think that's another thing too for the Knicks.
And they're in your division, so.
Yeah.
All right, what's the worst case scenario for the Knicks?
I mean, worst case is they're as bad as last year, but I really don't. I mean, I would be extremely surprised if that happened because I touched on it earlier. But I mean, the only 2 guys. It gives you an idea of how much better the roster is. 2 guys that are back, Lou Munson and Lance Thomas. I guess you can count Langston Galloway. They're not going to play much, if at all, throughout every game. So I think it gives you an idea of how much better they are. So I think the likely worst case is maybe they're like, I don't know, they win 30 games, 25 games. But I think that they have the potential to be, I think, close to 500. But I think that's the best. But I think likely worst case is like 30 games.
Yeah, worst case would probably be Carmelo gets injured, they don't make the playoffs, and they give their lottery pick to another team. So that's.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Nick. The health is a big concern, especially because Melo was hurt last season, Robin Lopez was hurt last season, Aaron Aflalo was hurt last season, and those 3 are big big pieces for this team. And Kristaps is so skinny that he could probably get hurt walking down the street in New York. So that guy needs to load up on that New York street meat and pizza.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I was thinking, he's kind of like a trendsetter. He can kind of show you because there's guys in high school, like Manute Bol's son, I've seen, Bol, and Thon Maker, I think 2 guys that are going to be seniors this year. They're kind of like Porzingis. They're like 6'11", like super frail, but they play in the perimeter. So I think Porzingis, he'll be able to give you an idea of like if that can work in the NBA, because now it's like, are you too skinny to really take the beating on defense, or can you get past it because you're just so long and whatnot and so skilled offensively?
And athletic. I mean, he's pretty athletic for his size too. So. Yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on, just because will he have to adjust more? Even Phil Jackson said he was I think slightly nervous about it because a former player like that, he said just couldn't have the core strength to really play in the NBA just because he was so big.
Well, we compared him to Sean Bradley, which is like, if you're a Knicks fan, you're like, oh my God.
The thing is, Sean Bradley wasn't even that bad. He's just remembered for getting dunked on all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
he went up for everything, which you have to respect.
Yeah, and he for someone his size, he wasn't terrible, but I think he was drafted pretty high, so I guess people think of him as somewhat of a bust or whatever.
Now on to our favorite segment, the truth.
Yeah, so the emoji that I decided on is the time or the bomb, and so my thinking was, Carmelo Anthony. There's been so much speculation, which a lot of it you don't know what to believe because it's New York media, but that maybe he regrets signing in New York. So my thinking is, if the Knicks really plummet this year, his love for New York and his desire to stay could be like a ticking time bomb, and it could only be a matter of time before he demands a trade and wants out.
That's a perfect one right there. I like that. That's a good emoji pick right there, John. So let's move on to League Pass. So you guys gonna watch the Knicks on League Pass this year?
Yeah, I mean, I watched them last year, so that just shows you either how dedicated or how stupid I am as a Knicks fan. So yeah, I'm gonna watch them. I'm excited for the beginning of the year, and just to see. The beginning of the year is probably gonna be tough, but I think maybe that after like 20 games, you'll be able to get a good feel for how well the team is gelling and their potential for the rest of the year.
Yeah, your fandom obligates you to watch, so it's fair.
The Knicks have 7 national TV games this year, which is interesting because you always think of the Knicks as like a league-ship franchise and really important. Like, if the Knicks are doing, you always hear this, if the Knicks are doing well, the NBA is doing well, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But I don't think they're that franchise anymore. At least the schedule makers don't think so, because they only have 7 national TV games, and we think they'll be better than Lakers, who have 19.
Yeah,
so that's ridiculous. I'm just so mad. I just don't like the Lakers, and I hate that they have not. I mean, I'm okay with them having 10, 11 because they have Kobe and Russell's exciting, but they're going to be bad. They're going to be probably the second worst team in the West, or arguably, with Portland and Minnie up there. I mean, they're going to be horrible. That makes me so mad.
But as far as watching League Pass, I don't think I'll be watching much of the Knicks. I think unless they're actually good, maybe I'll tune in, but I think 7 games is enough for a person who doesn't have a horse in the race.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably catch a few Knicks games just because I live in New York. I don't have to watch on League Pass, though. It's just the local MSG.
Yeah, MSG. Clyde Frazier.
Yep, he's pretty funny, so he might be worth just listening to a few times. Making up his own words.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
But, yeah, and they play the Nets a few times, so I always try to catch one of those games live. So, John, would you rather watch this or Hell on Wheels? The Knicks are Hell on Wheels.
If the Knicks play like they did last year, I'd rather watch Hell on Wheels. Hell on Wheels is a pretty good show.
What is it exactly about?
So basically, the main character, I forget his name. He's a guy. He lost his family in the I think it was the Civil War. So he's going after. Basically, he's trying to go after all these guys that killed his family. And so it ends up leading into him being like the head of the railroad, and so it kind of goes in. It's got some history into it where it talks about the railroad heading west and all that. So I mean, it's interesting. It's Common was in it. I'm not sure if you guys knew that Common was in it for a while. So that's a really good show. It piqued my interest for sure.
Yeah, I definitely thought that show was about like motorcycles and biker gangs and tattoos and stuff. So I was completely off. but I don't think I'll watch Hell on Wheels. I don't need more Civil War stuff in my life. Living close to the new market battlefield and stuff here in Virginia. So I'll stick with the Knicks.
All right, thank you guys for listening. And a hint for our next show, it's a team that they wish they could be as great as their owner.